Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, citizens of all ages, welcome back to another edition Star Citizen 3.11, and I wanted to bring something up. With the recent talks going on with everything going on in Star Citizen, it brought me back to something that I wanted to kind of touch on and start a bit more of a conversation on. As if you saw the title, I'm sure this is something that's been talked to death, but is LTI important? Now, I think a lot of people in the community would argue, it's a thing, but it's not super important. It's not something that you need. It's just a small technicality. This, that, the other thing. It brings to mind a couple of certain YouTube Star Citizens who I will not mention because I'm not trying to throw shade or anything to that matter. I think everybody is open to their own opinions, no matter how wrong they may be. No, but, and then, Sig has also said on a multitude of occasions the same thing. Oh, LTI is not that big, it's not that important, it's not going to play that big of a role. And for a long time, I thought the same thing. Well, a long time, like 2 months. For like 2 months, I thought the same thing when I first got into Star Citizen. I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then I thought about it. Insurance. Yeah, it might be a small fee here and there, but somebody like myself that has a huge fleet, those costs could compound very quickly. Couple that with the fact that SIG kind of stepped on their own toes. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, a few years ago, right around the time of the Hercules sale, if I recall correctly, which I do because that was burned into my brain because I was so upset over it. When the Hercules sale went live, if you bought the credit version, it only came with 6-month insurance. I even put a support ticket in to SIG like, hey, there's a problem here, it's not attributing the LTI, and they're like, nope, that's not an issue, which I would highly beg to differ, but that's another story for another time. So, my point being, even SIG has put LTI a bit on a pedestal, because in order to get LTI on the new concept ships, you have to invest fresh cash only. Now, that opens up a whole can of worms in and of itself, with SIG essentially devaluing previous money put into the game. Now, I get that SIG is a company, they're a business, they've got to generate revenue, I get it, but you should still be able to get LTI with credit by maybe paying even a little extra. Have another version that's 10 or 20 bucks extra that you get the LTI on, because they did it already with fresh cash. That's the only way to get LTI now on concepts. And for me, that's kind of a super kick in the pants, because I have a lot of money invested in this. The idea of, melting and being able to, quote, reinvest the money back in to the ship that you want, because ships change, fleets change. Now, that also brings up another idea, was the CCUing. A lot of people will argue, oh, well, if it's such a big fucking deal, why don't you just CCU? Well, I'll tell you why. Because in the event, let's say, like the Reclaimer is a perfect example, right? When the Reclaimer first came out, in my opinion, it was awesome. The pilot had access to all the weapons. It was my dream ship. I loved it. Now, they took that away. So I know a lot of people personally that melted not even CCU'd, melted their reclaimer outright because it essentially became super useless instead of just semi-useless because its mechanic wasn't online. So, if you were one of the unfortunate people that CCU'd an LTI token to a reclaimer, now you melt that reclaimer, right? Now that's gone. That CCU is gone. You're going to have to wait until around this time again next year, or whatever year, to repurchase it. Well, by that time, the price could have gone up. You're going to lose the insurance for the LTI token. You're going to not be able to buy that back. You'll be able to buy back the token that you originally used, but the CCU option is now gone. So again, you're going to have to wait until either the next anniversary sale, or fork out way more money to get an original concept of it to then be able to have in your buyback. Which is why I tell people, if you're going to buy a ship, especially if it's going to be gray market, always get the original concept or the ship itself, not a CCU, so you have the choice and chance to melt if you need to. But that is also a bit of a tangent. But back to the original point of the LTI itself. I feel like SIG has either intentionally or unintentionally put way more focus and way more value on LTI itself, again, especially attributing it only to fresh cash purchases of new concept ships. Nubifier, I believe, came up with a good idea wherein all ships will get retroactive LTI applied to them if they were purchased before X date. Half of me thinks that's a good idea, the other half not so much. I think one really easy way to fix this whole clusterfuck is to allow options in this alpha state to buy LTI applicators, let's say. So much like an LTI token, where you would have a cheap $30, $40 ship or concept item that's got LTI, instead of that and then CCUing it into the ship, there should be LTI claims that you can apply to the ship. Now, this would probably need a little bit more time and a little bit more thought put into it than just some random guy spitballing on the internet, like myself, but I think it would be totally possible, more than plausible, and totally acceptable if they were able to make some sort of insurance claim where you can take a ship that's only got the 6-month or the 2-month, like the Saber Raven or the AMD Omega Mustang, because those only had 2 months on them, so that's a bit of a pain in my craw. But anywho, I think they should have something where you can essentially throw a few extra bucks in, get an LTI applicator, and you could then apply that LTI to any ship, barring it having LTI already, because that would be fucking redundant. But being able to take that, apply it to any ship, and now, boom, now that's got LTI, and everybody's happy. SIG gets a few extra bucks in their pocket for really nothing. The individual, the backer, now has LTI on their ship, so they feel a little bit more at ease, a little bit more at peace, and everybody's happy, you know? Because if you've only got 1, 2, maybe 3 ships, alright, insurance probably isn't going to tank you. But if you're somebody who has a rather large fleet of ships, 10 or more, those insurance fees are going to add up pretty quickly, especially if you've got the really big ships, because I would assume bigger the ship, bigger the insurance cost, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. I think it's something worth investigating, something worth looking into, especially with how early, relatively early, uh, the game is still, and how these mechanics are still being hammered out. Because another thing you have to try to keep in mind is, at least in terms of charges, if you remember back to the original Kickstarter, uh, there's going to be hangar fees, or at least that was the initial plan. Now, again, there's been no mention of hangar fees since then, so hopefully that's a mechanic that has changed or has been nixed for the better. But in the event hangar fees are still a thing, well, that's another thing you're going to have to take into account. Now, some people have lifetime insurance a little bit confused. Lifetime insurance itself only constitutes the hull, the base package. So if you have a Carrack and you slapped in grade A industrial coolers, grade A industrial power plant, grade A industrial shields, which are all the most expensive and arguably the best performance-wise, not so much EM or so on and so forth. If you got LTI on that Carrack and it blows up, when you get your Carrack back, it's going to come with the stock parts again. So LTI isn't, an automatic I win button. They're going to have other insurance packages to cover custom parts. So even with LTI, you're going to have to buy the extra coverage for extra parts, for cargo, possibly even custom weapons, although that might fall under the custom components one. Who knows. But other than that, I think I'm actually going to leave the video here. Now it's your turn. Tell me what you think. Do you think LTI is important? Do you think it's going to be as big a deal as some people think? Do you think it's going to be a bigger deal? Let me know down below in the comments section. If you want to keep up with everything I got going on, also down below in the description is the Discord link. Pop on over. Join the conversation. I also will start showing leaks of stuff when it starts to come through, which is right around that time. So now is a great time to jump in if you haven't already. And other than that, thank you very much for watching. I hope all you beautiful bastards out there, you have yourselves a wonderful day, morning, evening, whenever, wherever you just so happen to be. This has been Will, Day Late Gamer, signing out. Love, peace, chicken grease. Get that LTI while you can.